So for today's training exercise, I'll be going over how to take the data from ncvitalstatistics.org and we'll convert it into spatial data using another feature. So here I went ahead and downloaded from our organization, added to our map, the zip code, COVID map, ESNC 2800. And here I have zip code data. Um, After I get through with this, if your final result looks a little bit different than mine, I am using the NAD 1983 North Carolina State Plane, 3200 US feet. So on the smaller level, we might see some differences when we map data. Could be a reason. I already went ahead and did the tab files and had them delimited. Just make sure you add headers so you can open them up in Excel and convert them to CSV files. So here you'll see in standalone tables I have the CSV files. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export the table. That way, this exported table lives inside of ArcGIS and it can act independently of the CSV files, which is pretty much what I'm looking to have. So we'll go ahead and export both these tables to 2021 and 2012. Typically, when we're going to be looking at large studies, Um, you want to have a lot more data than just 2 years. 2 years is pretty insufficient when we're looking at problematic areas. For my project, I look at vehicular deaths across the state, and I use 20 years worth of data to build that, which will give much more conclusive results rather than just 2 years. But now that I have these export tables, I can open them up, and we'll see for 2012, there's about 84,000 records. And for 2021, there is about 122,000 records. But these are just all deaths. And so, what's important when we're looking at the deaths, we want to filter out. So, we can use a tool up here you'll find in under the map, just in pretty much the home side. Or if you go to table, there's another one here called select by attributes. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to write a rule where the code 1, which is your initial cause of death, begins with, and I'm going to put V because that's how we identify vehicle deaths. And then I'll do OK. And now if I select this button down here, show selected records, and you'll see 1,500 out of 84,000. That's selected. So now I can export this table. And instead of being called export table, we're going to call this vhic only. I'll hit OK. And now I have vehicle deaths only, so it'll be the 1,500 records. I'll make sure to clear my selection before I do the other one, just to make sure I don't accidentally cross-contaminate any records together. And I'll also be very mindful when we're working with a lot of tables, you don't accidentally merge them together too early or move information around that doesn't need to be moved. And again, we're going to do the same thing where code 1 begins with, we'll type in V. It is very um, easy to accidentally add information to the wrong table, or you think you're working with table and you're working with another, um, especially when you start having 10, 20 tables open. Um, but anyway, this is for 2021. We'll do our VHIC only. So we have 2012 and 2021. And if I open these up, you'll see 1,500. And if we look here, we'll see the 2,100. All right. So now what I'm going to do, because there's a lot of information here, like code 20, code 14, there's a lot of things that I just don't really need to work with. Um, so we're going to go ahead and condense this down by a lot. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use a tool called Summarize. So I have the 2012 vehicle statistics only. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize by zip code. So we'll use this tool here, summarize. And I'm only going to do two fields here. I'm going to do the age in years, and we'll look at a median. And then I'm going to look at their sex, and we'll do a count. In my project, what I did was I looked at like sex, race, age, the month. But just for a short tutorial, this will be just a couple of them. And again, so I'll open this table up here, and then we're gonna go all the way to zip code. And there's the reason why we can't just go ahead and combine these two tables right now is because back 2013, 2014, they changed how they recorded the data. So I can't just put them together, but there is a way to do that, and I'll get to that in just a second. So again, we'll do the age in years, we'll look at a median, and then we'll look at sex, and we'll do a count. And now when we look at our statistics, I can open them up and we'll see frequencies, median, count, and we'll see here we have nulls, we have zip codes that are not in our state. Um, and this is also the reason why we need to have larger data samples because we're going to run in the nulls, we're going to run the zip code errors, and the more we have, and the better our data is, will just give more conclusive results. So now that I have these, I can't combine them just yet, like I said. They still won't combine, and it's also important to look at our what we're going to combine it to. So for these zip codes, when I look at the ID, that's what the zip codes are called. I can look at the fields, and I'm going to see for ID it's a text. And I need to make sure that when I try and combine my fields over here, that they're texts. And right now, they would not be able to go over. So to fix that issue, what I'm going to do is go to field, and I'm going to add some fields. So I'm just going to call this one age, and I'm going to make sure it's long. That way I can run um, numbers on it when I import it into the zip codes here. I'll make sure it's a numeric, and I'll just leave this as is. That way I can do the same thing for 2021. I'll just leave it as base. We'll do our zip connect. This one I'm going to make a text because the ID that we're going to join it to is a text. And this one I'll just call gender. And this one I'll leave as a text. And I'll hit this X right here. Um, it'll ask you to save. There's also a save button up here as well. There we go. So now I have 2012, and you'll see these are null for right now, but I'll use another tool called calculate in a second to make them not be null. So I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to add new fields. So I'm going to have an age, long, and we'll make that numeric. I'll leave it standard. Then we'll do a zip connect. This one I'll make text. And then lastly, we'll do gender. And we'll make this one text. And I see up here I can use save, and it saves, and I can just click out of there again. So again, we'll see we have a bunch of nulls. We have frequency, the median age years, count, sex. And what I'll do is I'll use a tool called calculate field. So now I can set an expression where age is equal, you can see here, age is equal to median age. And what I'll do is I'll take whatever this in this column is, and I'll make it the same for here. And we're going to do similar thing for the zip connect. We'll use same calculate field. Where calculate field is equal to zip code. Hit OK, and then we'll do calculate field is equal to count sex. Okay, And now I have these three fields that I created that were not originally there, and I'm going to do the same thing for 2012. That way I can join these two together when we use the merge tool. So again, we'll calculate field for age, median age year, do the zip connect. The zip connect will be equal to the zip code, and the gender is going to be equal to our count of sex. Now that these are like, and these are like, I am able to merge them together. So we can go over to our geoprocessing tools, so just type in merge, pull up merge, and we'll do our input data sets. So we'll do the 2012 export statistics, 2021 export statistics, and of course you can rename whatever you're doing. If you're looking at homicide, suicide, cancer, natural causes, whatever you might be looking at, you can rename however you want to. Um, and of course, like if I wanted to go back to this table, I could put down 2021 export statistics, 2012 export statistics. Just make sure I don't get confused. And you'll see here on this field map, we'll see zip code, frequency, median age year, counts text, age. So what looking here is see these twos, and these are separate. So these twos mean that they should be able to be joined together. So let's run, and you'll see here we get a new table called merge. But you saw earlier, they should join. But if I go down these zip codes, let's go down a bit further, you'll start seeing like the median age in years. This becomes null. The other ones at the top will be null. Um, the zip codes join together just fine, but again, I cannot join these zip codes to these zip codes. They're different types of data. So now what I can do is I can run a join, and for the input field, we'll use ID because that's what the zip codes that's what the zip codes data is. It's for ID. I'll combine this with my merge table. It auto-populated the zip connect to be my join field. But you can see there are other ways you would join it, but none of these are what we are looking for. So again, we'll use zip connect. We'll hit OK. And now I can close this table out and we can start looking at our symbology. So open, right click on zip codes, we'll go to symbology, and under here we can look at frequency. So I can look at the number of car crashes across the state. I can change the coloring just to make it pop a little bit more. And there it goes. Um, One tool we need to use, especially we look at different areas because there's different populations. The south side isn't going to have the same population density as here in Wake County, Durham. Just less people there. So we can normalize it. We can look at the population for the current year, total population current year. We normalize it and we see it's a little bit worse, a little bit better had we not normalized it. We could also look at the median age, which we just called age. And what age are people? Um, and this here, instead of total population, I would look at average age, median age, and there we normalize it there. But again, this is only 2 years worth of data, so it's not going to be very accurate to what we're trying to assess. A much better use of this would be to look at 10, 15, 20, 30 years worth of data. The more data you have, and as long as it's reliable, you're going to get better results. Um, so that's just some of my suggestions for taking the ncvitalstatistics.org data and converting it into spatial data using another feature layer within the map. And of course, now that this is all together, we can run statistics, we can make charts. So if I wanted to look at age, I could do visualize statistics and I'm going to get a chart. And we can look at tools like the median, You can show your normal distribution, change your bins. But again, this is only 2 years. So it's not going to be the most accurate. Um, and when we start looking at multiple decades, you will see your graphs change dramatically. But that's all. That's all for the video today.